Raptors run out of gas against the Philadelphia 76ers. 114-107 is your final. Welcome to Raptors Tonight, live from Real Sports. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Alvin Williams and Paul Jones. Fellas, pleasure to have you on the show for the first time in this season. What's up? You good?
Thank you.
Oh yeah, a little pal there. Jonesy already greasy with the wings. I like it. Good food this year. Good food. We got some calamari here. We got lots of different stuff.
You're hiding that
No,
one.
I'm hiding that behind. All right,
Does that mean you want it later? Is that what?
Yeah. Let's get into the game. Played last night, a little tired, but when Philadelphia's got Embiid and Maxey going like that, it's tough to stop them.
You know, the first thing you said is really important. They played last night and they're tired. And people will say, well, and Al, I'm sure Al's heard this too as a former player. Come on, guys. Charter flight, the best meals, the best care.
Did you have charter?
Come on, man, I ain't that old.
But Nick Nurse made a good point in his postgame when he talked about the adjustment to the back-to-back early in the season. Your body's not quite used to the rigors of it. It's different if it's January or February, but early in the season. And then when I examined the game, it really was the script for a classic back-to-back scenario. Come out firing in the first quarter, 36 points, 7 straight threes or whatever it was they made off the start. You're up at half, the lead's dwindled, but you're up at half by 3-4 points. Come out in the second quarter and somebody's put the piano, third quarter, somebody's put the piano on your back. They get outscored 35-20 by a team who traveled before that, was sitting here waiting for them, and maybe had a little extra incentive with Nick Nurse as the head coach.
Yeah, Al, when I was watching that game, I thought, okay, playing pretty well, a lot of energy, a decent amount of energy, but the third quarter was where I was going to judge kind of how, or the beginning of the third quarter is where I was going to judge how this game was going to go, and just like Jonesy said, that was sort of the difference. Is that how you saw it too? You were pretty close.
So you judged it. What was your verdict?
I was interested to see how it was going to go down.
Okay.
And then, it was a barrage of points, and that's what happened.
And a lot of times that it happens like that, right? You have a team that is coming off a back-to-back. They have a rhythm, although it went in overtime, they lost, but they have a rhythm. The other team's been waiting. They're not all the way in the game, but then you have, the Sixers. They're a veteran team.
Yeah.
So they're going to cruise. They're going to let you swing your punches and throw your punches, and then they walk you in deep waters and see if you can swim. So when you have two players like Maxey and Embiid, don't forget about Tobias Harris, who came out early and was doing very well. But then Patrick Beverley, to me, I know the stat sheet's not going to show it, but that aggression,
It gives you that energy.
that energy came in there. Then you bring a Kelly Oubre in there, so that energy that they needed, that first group needed, he gave him, and then the stars took over.
Maxey is, we all know Embiid's a monster.
Does it make him work a little bit more defensively? Is that
How?
Does that matter?
Oh, make Maxey work?
Yeah.
You might with the ball movement and stuff, but at the other end, I look at a guy who has already learned to play without the ball because he was playing without James Harden.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, I got that. Now you're going to give me the ball? Oh, lights out.
Yeah.
And he and Embiid ran that kind of get play, pass to the wing, follow and get it behind the three-point line. He made 2-3 threes on that one play. He's used to moving without the ball. He's used to that kind of stuff. And I don't want to say you're better without your best player, but Nick Nurse is the master of getting the most out of people. And when I think about the championship team in Toronto, Nick Nurse had 2 teams that year. He had one team that played 60 games with Kawhi Leonard, and he had another team that played 22 games without him.
Yeah.
And they were 17-5 without him. And the next year when Kawhi left, that team that had 22 games together had the whole season together, and they were 3rd in the NBA when COVID shut the world down.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying they're better without James Harden, but Nick has always been a guy, well, here's what I got. Let's work with it. Let's get these guys on the floor and do the best we can.
But you got to take your hat off to those players as well.
Yes.
To buy in. And I always thought, when you talk about a Nick Nurse, I always thought that was an advantage or a quality that he had to get guys to buy in. And that's one of the hardest jobs for an NBA coach or a professional coach, because there's so many egos, there's so many agendas to get guys to really buy in for an ultimate goal. But you talk about a Tyrese Maxey, he's had multiple coaches in his young career, and he continues to get better. So that shows that, one, he has a crazy work ethic, and two, he's willing to just listen.
He's coachable.
Like he's coachable.
Yeah.
So no matter who comes in there, he's willing to perform, and the work speaks for itself.
Obviously, the easy answer to this question is OG would help defensively, but specifically where and how would he have been a factor here tonight?
I just think it's tough. Like Philadelphia, look, Nick Nurse knows what he did to Joel Embiid to shut him down.
Yeah.
So now he's on the other side. He's like, hey, Joe, you got to watch out for this, this, and this.
He had a lot of space tonight.
He had one turnover, Joel, tonight. And they had him out on the floor, so when double teams came at him, yeah, he got rid. Like there were times when they took it out of his hands and other people missed shots, and that was the best thing Toronto could do. But there were a couple other times when they ran at him, and he's 7 feet, standing out on the floor with space and surveying. He got layups. He got, like Kelly Oubre got 2 layups.
No, for sure.
He was finding guys. So Joel Embiid he's not the MVP for nothing.
Yeah, no, he's the real deal. But I look at the strategy to double team him, right? So Nick Nurse, he had a lot of experience. Playoff, 7 games in the playoffs. 2 years they played 6 games the second year. Then throughout the year you play against the Sixers. So you start understanding players. He knows the Sixers, that personnel, like he knows them very well.
Yeah.
Darko's realizing it. You look at the Raptors, what they did tonight. It wasn't random double teams, but I would say it was more like reckless double teams. Like go.
Right.
Like Scotty were chasing around. The basket wasn't protected. And like you said, Nick probably was like, this is what you look for in the double teams.
Yeah.
Helping Joel to pick it apart. So it's one of those things where from a defensive standpoint, Darko, the more experience he has to guard and learn how to play against a Joel Embiid, he'll do a much better job of implementing a defense that's going to help him. Joel Embiid, catch, as soon as he dribbles, that's his weakness. Dribble, passing out of doubles off a dribble.
Yeah.
A lot of times, he was there watching, and then a double will come.
Right.
When the doubles come, when I'm watching, I can just pick you apart.
Right.
When I turn my back and go, whether it's coming from the baseline or the middle, so those things you can mix it up.
You used a key word, Red. Space.
Yeah.
He had a lot of space.
Yeah.
And it was also spacing out on the floor, too, to allow him, as Al said, to see over and see that stuff.
And I think if you're Precious Achiuwa, you maximize what you have, and that's athleticism and quickness. Maybe deny him a little bit the ball at times.
Nah.
Okay.
Nah. Like, no, because denying, that's...
Like, just make it a little bit more different. Like, he's catching it, he's sizing it up.
But that's throwing your defense off.
Right,
Because
okay.
if you're denying, that's a philosophy.
Yeah.
If you deny one pass away, that means your defense has to shift.
Right.
Because if I miss that deny, everyone's so... If that's not your defensive philosophy, you can't say, you know what, I'm going to deny the ball. What I will do, I will force him out, make him catch it farther away from the basket. But I can't really change up the philosophy.
Yeah.
Denying is a philosophy, right? You know, pressure and physicality that's a part of your defense.
That's why we have you on the show.
No, but
in this
that's
chair,
why you shouldn't say that he should do something.
That's right. I should ask whether or not he should do it.
You should talk to Precious first.
Yeah. All right.
And Precious gets hurt.
Yeah, right. Okay, our guest tonight is the producer and co-host of Sportsnet's The Raptors Show. He's also the author of Prehistoric, the audacious and improbable origin story of the Toronto Raptors. Let's give it up for Alex Wong, everybody. Yeah, Alex Wong. Come on in.
What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
Sorry, man, I left my blazer at the dry cleaners. I didn't know this was a dress code.
Got that Yves Saint Laurent.
Let me give
Yeah,
you
Yves Saint Laurent, that's how you're gonna rock it.
Possibly bootleg, so but
Possibly.
we don't need to look into that. Yeah,
Possibly
we don't need to
bootleg?
look at. Yeah, possibly.
That looks
possibly.
real to me, and I am.
Listen,
I know.
Listen, it's on air now, so it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Isn't that TikTok? Nobody knows. They're never going to know, right?
Nobody.
I'm gonna have to ask Justine about TikTok. I'm too old for TikTok, Jonesy.
Okay, let's get into the book, Alex.
Yeah.
First of all, how did the inspiration?
Wait. Is that my copy of the book?
Listen, Jonesy, this can be your copy.
Okay.
If I see you at the arena next week, I can bring you a copy. I've been having a lot of trouble with my publisher. A lot of people have been bugging me.
Wow.
Even
Well, you're
Damon
calling out your
Stoudemire.
publisher right
No,
now.
I'm calling out my publisher right now on national TV or whatever it is. Even Damon Stoudemire said he hasn't received his copy.
Well, everybody interviewed for the book. It's like,
Yeah. And I want Jonesy.
Not everybody
Jonesy.
interviewed for the book.
No, I want Jonesy to read it because Jonesy's story is in there. The story of you growing up, you told me about in the 80s, how hard it was to even watch basketball. All of that.
tape delay, man.
Yeah, you would.
Tape delay. It was on after Alice
Yeah.
at midnight.
I'm gonna throw him under the bus because my main man. I'm in Philly and I got my book. I can't. Even
You know what it
lie.
is? I have a US. Alvin's in the epilogue because I do the first season.
Okay.
Because I got to do another book if we're going to do Alvin's.
Right, yeah, for Alvin.
Because Alvin came here.
I'm with
you know,
the dinosaur.
The franchise was a little messy when Alvin came here.
Very-
When Alvin came,
messy.
and
It
you
was a
know
little
it's funny
messy.
because people kill me. They go, "Who's your favorite Raptor?" I go, "I don't know. I think in the early years, like before we moved to Scotia or then the Air Canada Centre,
Yeah.
like the Sky Dome years, it was Damon." They go, "Wait a minute. I thought you were an Alvin fan. They traded Damon for Alvin." I'm like,
For
well,
Kenny Anderson, I was a throw-in.
Yeah, like, yeah, but you were the guy that came. Kenny didn't, and I touch Kenny about that all
I
the
was
time.
homeless.
Like, so can I have both, Damon and Alvin?
This is what I try to tell people. You know, Patrick Beverley had that quote, I think it was like earlier this week on his podcast, being like, I'm not scared of the Raptors. Like,
Yeah.
do they have any dogs in their team? Even my co-host, like Will Little, you're too little young to remember you, right, Alvin? So when you come on the show, all this stuff, he's always like, yo, Alvin was a hooper back then? I was like, yo, you know how Patrick Beverley talks about like dogs? Alvin was a dog.
He wouldn't have said
Alvin was a
that.
dog,
He
man.
would not have said that about your team with Oak,
No.
Antonio.
I mean,
Any of
Kevin
us.
Willis was there for a time.
Yeah, Kevin was there, but
He wouldn't have said that.
no.
No,
How did this book come about before we get into the Kevin Willis era?
you didn't send me that on the rundown. Also, let's order more wings. You know, Raptors won the championship in 2019, and like I was 11 years old when the Raptors started in '95, and you know I grew up watching the Raptors since day one. And after the championship, I felt like there was just a like new rush. I'm getting all this to go, Randy. After the Raptors won the championship, there was just this like new audience. I feel like a lot of people came in and it was like, yo, I gotta follow the Raptors now. I want to learn about the history of the team. And I felt like enough time had passed since the beginning of the franchise that now there's multi-generations of people, some of whom weren't even born in '95, to understand all the hard work that all these people like Jonesy, who was there from the beginning, put in to lay down the blueprint. And that was really the main thing
You
for
know,
me.
and Alex, you talk about the championship. The night they won, I was standing on the court,
Yeah,
and it was surreal.
yeah,
Like in '95, the Raptors were in the NBA, but we weren't really NBA. Like we were in the league, but I mean, the worst loss in franchise history is still to Shaq and Penny in Orlando. I remember getting second night, you know, in Indiana, down like huge at halftime to Reggie Miller and Dale Davis, Antonio Davis, Derek McKee. I'm like, man, what are we doing with these guys? What are we doing here? We got no shot. We got absolutely no shot of winning this. I'm sitting there calling the game and I'm watching it, and all of a sudden it's like Brendan Malone knew that Mark Jackson had a tough time stopping traffic, let alone stopping Damon Stoudemire. He just spread the floor and said, go get him, Biggie, and the game was close all of a sudden. So things like that, when you said you wanted to talk about the early years,
Yeah.
those kinds of things resonated with me. They're still etched in my memory.
So what was the most surprising piece of information you came about in your research?
most surprising piece. So I talked to about 140 people that was involved in the organization. And I was able to go from, you know, front office, head coach, people that worked on the broadcast, on the radio team, members of the dance pack, so many people that played either a small or big role in the organization. And the most surprising thing for me is how close-knit the day one people still are. Like, to me, like, I came into it wanting to tell.
You got one sitting behind
We have
us.
Elaine Kwan in the back here. She's part of community relations. Madonna was part of the early dance pack teams. And like, I know the Raptors had a reunion event. There was a Raptors reunion event over the summer. And it was incredible seeing Tracy Murray, AC Earl, you know, even Marcus Camby from the second year. All these guys show up. Jonesy as well. And Jonesy can attest to this. Like, there's something special about when you're starting a franchise as an expansion team. And like, this book ended up being like a way more I would say, like emotional journey as you read it than I thought. I thought this was going to be a lot of information, a lot of research was in it, but what I came to find out was this was all about the relationships. And I know Jonesy, because my publisher screwed up, and Jonesy hasn't had the book yet. Jonesy's whole story about your relationship with Ed Pinckney in that first year, that's all in there.
Eddie Pinckney was, like, to this day, I still have relationships with people like Elaine. Like, she organized a reunion.
Yeah.
She said, we're having this reunion. I get a call from Tracy Murray. Jonesy, you better be there. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll be there. And you're right. It was like, it's a used cliche, but it really was like a family. It really, really was.
When you guys, like when the Raptors won the championship, and I talked to you about this too, Jonesy, like I'm sure when they won that Game 6, you thought back to day one.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. I thought back to Alvin Robertson.
Yeah.
Walking onto the bus when there was only one bus. And I walked on, and I'm like, I'm on an NBA bus. And Alvin Robertson going, sit here. I'm like, this guy's got an Olympic gold medal. He's like an NBA All-Star. Sit down, Jonesy. I'm like, yep, I'll sit down. Is that what you want? Like, you want me to go get you coffee? Like, and you're right. I did think back to that, and all the people that were around early.
What was the best part of the writing process, and what was the worst part of the writing process?
Well, the worst part is, I always tell people, like, this is my second, like, long-form book. Like, the writing process is just very long and strenuous, right? Like, you want to get people's stories right. And I think it's like whenever you write a book, especially a book of this nature, you're documenting the history of the franchise. To me, it's a responsibility, right? Like, you want to tell the story properly because you hope that Raptors fans that are reading it is able to process what it was like at the beginning of the franchise very accurately. I think the best part for me is, like, I keep going back to this, just hearing everyone's stories and hearing everyone's enthusiasm about going down that trip down memory lane, remembering that first year, like people remembering what it was like to be at the first game at the Sky Dome. Even the Raptor mascot, I know we're not supposed to say his name ever on air, but like, he was excited to recall what it was like to try out to be on the team. And the players discovering this, it's the city of Toronto for the first time, even members in the front office, like selling season tickets for the first time. Like, this was a hockey first town, and a lot of people were resistant to the idea of putting big money into a basketball team. So, like, it was super cool hearing everybody's stories.
Let me ask you this, Alex, and this is something our colleague Jack Armstrong has talked about. When guys, like when you play for the Celtics, you know the history of the Celtics, right? You know Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, all the way through, Larry Bird, like you know the history of the franchise. Jack Armstrong has said this, and I agree. We've talked about this. Should we have a book like yours to hand to people when they come here in June and say, by October, I want you to read, like Phil Jackson on road trips?
For you? I mean, you adopted this nation. They adopted you pretty quick.
It would have been helpful for me just because of my approach.
Yeah.
My approach was to respect everything.
Right.
I was a basketball fan, and I was just happy to be here.
So, Al, let me ask you this, because we talked about this. Guys, I would say, come to Toronto kicking and screaming, but when they get here and they see what it's about, it's like, hey man, this is dope, this is cool. And they never leave with a really bad taste in their mouth. Do you agree with that statement?
No doubt about it. That's 100% correct. I think the turn was, when there was a conscious effort to keep things stable with management, ownership, coaching, because a lot of times players would come here as a pit stop to pick their game up or increase their value, and things ultimately, it turned the locker room, it just wasn't a commitment to the organization of being good, to being great, to being a championship. So players came here with the idea of saying, they're not that good anyway.
Yeah.
I stunk over here, so let me get myself back here. So people use this as like a pedestal to get somewhere else.
I got one more for Alex. Did you find the people in the organization, their love and enthusiasm, different from those players that you interviewed who, like Al said, were, well, I'm here for a good time, not a long time, and I'll be gone, and all of a sudden it changed? Did you find that,
Yeah,
Alex?
it's funny, Alvin, talking about people seeing Toronto as kind of a pit stop, right? Like you think about that first-year team, the expansion draft happens, and these are like veteran cast-off players and like draft busts that like other teams wanted to get rid of, right? The Raptors are drafting guys who had to prove themselves. And what I felt like is like a lot of these guys were initially very skeptical about Toronto. Even at Pickney, when I talked to, was like, he talked to all his friends and they were like, man, it's gonna be real cold up there. Nobody's gonna talk about the basketball team. Nobody's gonna care about anything. What I learned was these players came through, and I want to spotlight someone like a Tracy Murray. They came through, fell in love. They fell in love with what this city was about, the enthusiasm. And I think it's like Alvin said, even like 25, 30 years later, there's still so much skepticism about the city of Toronto as like a basketball city, but it's always, people have come and experienced it, and they come and realize how great Toronto is. So I think it's all started from the first year, and it's like, sometimes there's just an ignorance to this. That people just think about Canada and think about Toronto that way. You can't wash away that ignorance, but you just hope that these people come through as players, they're able to see exactly what it is and pass that message on. Because I'm sure, Alvin, you talked to some players. Let them know.
For sure.
Gonna pause it there for a second. Alex's book is called Prehistoric: The Audacious and Improbable Origin Story of the Toronto Raptors. You can find it at Amazon.ca.
And all Indigo locations.
All Indigo locations. I'm
Don't
going to get you
handle
to
my
sign.
book too badly there, right?
Yeah. If you want to stick around for the rest of the show, we're going to do Fan of the Night.
Yo, if you guys aren't gonna boot me out, I'm here, man.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. Should we do Fan of the Night now? Let's do it. All right. Fan of the Night, what we do now is we take a little mug, we walk around, we put some names in, and whoever wants to be on the show, I'm going to pull the name now. If I can read it.
You need your glasses?
Lucas Palermo. Lucas! Come on in, bud. Come on in. Lucas, what's up, man? Good. Come on, here, just jump that. Yeah. Or just step over.
See Lucas's jersey?
Yeah.
Everybody likes the retro. It's cool now, the throwback. To me, that said, Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, New York Knicks, 114. Toronto Raptors, Oliver Miller, Tracy Murray, John Sally, 62. Like, everybody loves that. I'm getting into it now, but it just brings back some bad memories of some bad losses, man.
Because you remember it all.
Because I remember it all, man.
Lucas, do you have a question or a comment for the panel? And Alex?
Yeah, I do have.
Who are you? How'd you crash this
No,
thing?
I wouldn't say that.
Why are you
Come
wearing
on.
a Jays hat?
That's just mean to you. Come on, that's mean to
Is
you.
that YSL bootleg? Why aren't you eating your wings?
Come on, I'm trying to ask a question. You're making me laugh here.
Here we go. Lock it up.
I do have one question. Throughout these first 3 games, I've noticed that Siakam has not got off to the start that everybody had expected him to, and we all know that he's an all-star capable talent. We saw that last season, average career high, 24 points. What do you think he has to do in order to turn it around so he can get back to the form that we know he can get back to?
Al, go.
What he has to do is continue working every day to prove to everyone that he's on board. But it's not just on him. It's on his teammates, it's on the coaches, because he is a talent. He's an all-star. He's a champion. He's somebody that earned his position. So he earned the respect, that fact that we need to implement you more in certain situations. Now, the team ultimate goal is to win. But it's a collective effort between those two, right? Pascal. So it's one of those things. It's still early. Like, it's very early, but at the same time, they really have to work together in order to get the most and maximize what Pascal Siakam brings to this organization. And it's a lot, because you're not going to tell me whatever position he is, wing player, power, small forward, whatever, 3-man, that it's 10 other players at his position better than him. He's an elite player in this NBA. So you got to make sure you maximize that and utilize it.
Lucas, I also think it's a system. I mean, he's not getting the ball the same way.
Right.
And we know when you change things, sometimes they get worse. Often they get worse before they get better.
Right.
Right? Think about renovating your house. okay, that kitchen, when you tear it apart, it's like, man, like, look at this. But by the time it's rebuilt and it's done, it looks beautiful. And I think Pascal's learning in a new system. He's trying to play the system for everybody and not just be selfish in it, right? And that was a word that reared its ugly head a lot at the end of last season. So, as Al says, he's got to keep working. Everybody has to keep working to learn the system so that everybody flourishes in it.
We've had that, right? I remember being on a team. We had change of management, coaches. Vince Carter. We all know about Vince Carter. It was his last year before he got traded. Vince Carter was averaging like 16 points because the coach came in and he started doing things differently. Vince had to adjust. And it wasn't about get a ball to Vince and let him go and get his 25, team may lose or whatever. So it's a different system, as Jonesy was saying. But a lot of players go through that. So it's like I said, it's one of those efforts where everyone has to come on the same page. I believe Pascal has earned the right to, have those conversations. Where do you like the ball? Where can we put a package together for you at certain times? Because there are certain times you see the Raptors, they will go on a scoring drought. Last night, tonight, they go on a scoring drought. Sometimes you got to say, you know what? Go get me a bucket.
Go get it.
You have players that can go get you a bucket.
Yeah. Right.
And sometimes that's that. But as a young coach, you want to implement your style. So you want to make sure you implement your style and everyone's on board before you venture out a bit. So it's respectable on both sides.
Okay, Lucas, time to shoot for a prize. You ready for that?
Lucas.
All right, give me the mic, and then you go up to the ball, step behind the line.
Oh, man, y'all really...
You got 2 chances to get it in.
You got to spin that thing. Don't you got to spin it?
No, he's going to spin after. He's got to make a shot first.
Make a shot
spin.
before he...
So it's no pressure?
There's pressure because if he misses, he doesn't get to spin.
Come on,
Come
dog.
on, Lucas, that's like...
Hey!
It's been bagged
Come on,
it.
man,
Make
bank shot.
another one. Go
So
again.
now spin
even
after?
Too close. All right,
wow.
nice.
Hold on,
Good job.
dog. We'll talk later.
Okay. No,
We'll
you're
talk
good.
later.
Spin it up. That's a soft spin. Respin.
He
Give it a
didn't
good
want the
one.
bag. He's like, let
Good
me
one.
respin.
Unless you wanted the bag. What do we got?
Let's get him 2 apps.
Tickets on there.
Get him 2
Gift card,
apps.
Yeti Cup.
Oh,
Hoodie.
hoodie.
That's a good gift. That's a
That's
good
not
gift.
bad. That's not bad.
That's a good
Sick.
gift.
That's sick.
What we got?
We got to work on this, Jonesy. We got to work on this format.
What?
Hoodie up front, car back here. I gotta know what I'm going for, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
you.
it. Yeah, you want this
Let's
book,
see the
too?
hoodie.
Congrats.
Oh, show the hoodie. Show the hoodie. Yeah.
For sure.
Congrats.
And
Gonna leave me hanging?
shake Alvin's hand.
God dang.
Don't
Damn,
don't leave him
that's
hanging.
sick. Damn.
Show the
Come on,
hoodie.
man.
That's a nice hoodie. Do you want this?
Well, have you even read this
That's
yet,
our
Randy?
copy,
Come on,
man.
man.
No, we got more.
What kind of
You want
promo
this?
is this?
He'll sign it for you.
A hoodie and a book.
Actually?
So you got to put hoodie and the book.
It's a more valuable signature than you think, brother. Can I do it off air?
Yeah, you can do it
Yeah,
off
let me
air.
do that off
You can
air.
do it off air.
I won't write you a nice
Thanks, man.
personalized
I
message.
appreciate you coming on.
Hey, pleasure meeting you.
Yo, appreciate you.
Hey,
Pleasure, man. Pleasure.
Lucas, right here, bud.
When's the last time you seen somebody spin before they actually did the effort? Like you got.
Alvin wants to put the NOAA analytics here.
Yeah. All right, let's stop. Let's stop it there. Next game for the Raptors Monday here at home against the Portland Trailblazers. Tip-off goes at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. After the game, come on by Real Sports. Be a part of the show. We have some great prizes to give away. Thanks for watching.
Spin
And
for
we'll
them.
see you next time.
Get to spin for him.